going to the Capitol.
Yes, can you take
Gonna
that?
make a difference. Whatever God does there,
Maybe.
He has no idea, but is it okay that I said that? Because we're going to be watching for you. He's going to be live tomorrow. So y'all watch him live tomorrow at the Capitol building. You'll go, he was just at Cooter's yesterday morning. So, but he's here, and we're going to do one more song. And this is just to set up the morning for him to come and speak to you. And this song is called How Great Is Our God. We do it a lot. All y'all know that one. And we're just going to praise God and say how great He is, and we're just so grateful that Nelson's here, right? Can y'all give a hand for Nelson? I'm not going to introduce him anymore, because as soon as we finish, he's going to come up.
You can turn that off if you want.
The splendor of the King, clothed in majesty, let all the earth rejoice. All the earth rejoices. He wraps himself in light, and darkness tries to hide, and it trembles at his voice. It trembles at his voice. How great is our God? Sing with me, how great is our God. And all will see how great is our God. In age to age He stands, and time is in His hands, beginning at the end, beginning at the end. The Godhead three in one, Father, Spirit, Son, the Lion and the Lamb, the Lion and the Lamb. How great is our God? Sing with me, how great is our God? And all will see how great is our God. Sing, you are name above all names. You are name above all names. And Come give them heaven.
All right. Yay. Thank you. Can I sit?
You can sit.
I think I saw Cooter sitting yesterday.
You saw him?
so-
You want to sit in Cooter's chair? That's his mic. It's on.
No, it's okay. I'll be
Okay,
closer to the, I guess,
Okay.
the broadcast over here. So.
Okay.
So, I am honored to be here because I am a kid from a cornfield. Anybody ever seen cornfields? So I grew up in Indiana, northern Indiana, west of Fort Wayne, Indiana, a small town called Columbia City. You probably have never heard of Columbia City, I'm guessing. So, but I grew up on a farm. We had 160 acres. We had pigs. We had cattle. I was in 4-H. I was in FFA, Future Farmers of America, even though I did not want to be a farmer because I learned it was really hard work on the farm. There was always stuff to be done. And I remember playing basketball in high school and like on a Friday night, and then I had to go the next morning and like haul manure. And I was like, really? I'm like, oh. But we had to get up like at 6 in the morning. That's when we slept in Saturday mornings. It's still 6, you know. And I was like, oh my gosh. I go, I can't wait to get off the farm. This is so much hard work. But what it did is it grounded me and taught me essentially values that I've never forgotten. You know, because one of the things that, you know, a lot of people don't understand is that there's a lot of pride that the enemy tries to bring into us. And I've seen people that are very prideful, a lot of people that are in the church, you know, that are very prideful. They're not the way that they really should be. And pride really stinks to high heaven, I always say. Because they actually got, you know, Lucifer kicked out of heaven because he wanted to be like God. He was very prideful, very arrogant. And so growing up on a farm, you know, I know where my roots are. And I remember, you know, stinking, you know, baling hay when it was like 90 degrees outside in the summertime and then putting it in the mound and having like green boogers. It's like, because you're breathing in the hay and the alfalfa, and it's like, you know, things that are really, you know, humbling. And so I'm like, okay, it doesn't matter, you know, how far I travel, where I go, who I speak to. What? Can you not hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll move this closer. So
Yeah.
there we go.
Thank you.
So it really brings me back to remembering from where I'm from, no matter where I go. So in my lifetime, I actually graduated from high school, and this is kind of funny. I never had any aspirations to being a leader when I was in school, but my best friend, he was always the president of our freshman class, our sophomore class, our junior class, and then by the time it was the senior class, he didn't want to run. He wanted to be a vice president, and I'm like, he goes, why don't you be a president? I'm like, I don't want to be a president. He's like, well, he goes, I don't want to be it, and I'm like, I go, I guess I could run, but I'm like, I never had any desire to do that. But so I went ahead and I ran, and I ended up getting it. Well, then afterwards, he said, guess what? Now you're in charge of all the reunions. And I'm like, what? No fair. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of work. And so now every 5 years, it's like I have to help plan that, even though I don't live there anymore. I don't live anywhere now. I travel. Guess what? I don't have a home. I have no home. I have no apartment. I basically live about half the time in other people's homes and the other half in hotels. And I've been doing this for 2.5 straight years. So it's blowing my mind because after I graduated from Purdue, I got married. I got a job from a company called Banker Systems where I sold software to banks for opening up like new accounts as well as taking loans out. It would automate that process. So I enjoyed doing that. I called on banks that were in Indiana and Kentucky and in Illinois. And my desire, because I grew up very poor, I had to wear hand-me-down clothes. I had to wear jeans that had holes in it before holes became cool.
That's right.
And I remember they used to have to put patches on my knees, and I'm like, seriously, I'm like a patch kid, Cabbage Patch Kid, before Cabbage Patch Kids no longer were in vogue. So, but all that stuff, I think it really helps to let me look back on where I grew up at, and whether I had a lot of money, which that was my goal, was to try to become like a millionaire by the time I was 40, and I was about halfway there. But what ended up happening was I had 3 children, and my oldest son had some things happen to him that caused him to be hurt. And he went from being a normal kid to becoming a very angry kid. And I put him in psychologists, paid a lot of money for counseling. They put him on medication, and nothing worked. And I learned later, you can't cancel out what the enemy puts in a person through these traumas. You have to understand how the enemy works. I didn't know. I grew up with a mother that loved me and a father that loved me, which I thought that was the norm for everybody. But what I've learned now, that's very, very rare in the world, is to have two parents that love you unconditionally. And my mother had a mother that was pretty controlling of her, that she didn't really like to be around, and I didn't understand why. Well, now I understand why. You know, and my father had a basic relationship, I would call it, I guess, with his father. It wasn't really loving, and he lost his brother. He had a heart defect, and he ended up having like one of the world's first heart transplants. And a couple of days after he had that, he ended up pulling out plugs and stuff, and it actually caused him to die. And then when that happened, his mother was very sad, and then she died. They always say that she died of a broken heart because she was so sad for losing her son. And I remember my dad telling me that when they used to bale hay, that his brother used to get really tired, and that the other kids used to make fun of him, saying, well, you're not a hard worker like we are. Well, they didn't know he had like half as much of a heart as the others did, until after he had the heart surgery. Then they knew at that point that, oh, he's not faking this. He's not, you know, and a lot of times people say things and do things to us that hurt us. And then we remember those over and over and over again the rest of our lives. Oftentimes people have grown up with wounds from their fathers and mothers, remember the tones, remember the voices of what they said to them. And they get into their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and they still hear those voices. And they have a negative effect on us. And what was interesting is, again, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a preacher, I'm not an evangelist, I'm a kid from a cornfield, I say. But I went through some things and learned about this, and now I'm seeing thousands of people all over the world that are changing their lives, saving their marriages from strife and arguing, no longer going through divorces. Or if they've gone through a divorce, oftentimes they get remarried once their spouse has truly humbled themselves and has forgiven people that have hurt them. So I was in Boise, Idaho about, 2 months ago, and when I was getting my oil change there, it's kind of funny, it's kind of weird getting my oil changed like all throughout the United States. I get my hair cut all throughout the United States. And it's funny, you go to these sport clips places, I used to get them cut at great clips, but I got my cut at sport clips once, and then they were telling me, you know, we don't have a time limit here. We can take as long as we need to get you done. But they said that they used to work at great clips. They said they have more of a time limit there. They have to get them in, get them out, so that they're kind of more rushed. So at sport clips, they weren't. So I'm like, I got to pay a little more, but I'm like, well, okay, I'll take my time there, get my hair cut there. And then what they invariably do is ask you, what do you do? And so I tell them, well, I used to sell software to banks. I used to manage relationships in the banking world, but now I help people who have had wounds from childhood, from their fathers, mothers, stepfathers, stepmothers, sexual violations that have happened. I help them have more peace. And they're like, wow, that's cool. And then as I'm talking to them, oftentimes light bulbs go off in their head. They're like, oh my gosh, you're describing me. You're describing my mom and my dad to a T, the way that they behaved. I'm like, yeah, I go, most people have these relationships that have been hurt. So anyway, I've seen a lot of people that have been cutting my hair that are learning about this ministry and helping them to heal from their childhoods. So the Lord spoke to me when I was in Boise, and he said, how many thoughts per day do you think the average person has that has not gone through, you know, the ministry? And I'm like, I don't know, a couple thousand thoughts a day. He's like, no, it's a lot more than that. Look it up. So I Google searched it, and it says this: in 2005, the National Science Foundation published an article summarizing research on human thoughts per day. It was found that the average person has up to 60,000 thoughts per day.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing? I'm like, 60,000? I'm like, holy cow. Because I know a lot of people that have gone through the ministry, they're like, after they go through it, they're like, I'm not hearing all these negative thoughts anymore in my mind. I have like a peaceful mind. I don't have the chatter up there that I used to. Because it goes on and says, of those thousands of thoughts, 80% were negative, and 95% were exactly the same repetitive thoughts as the day before. And we just don't think about our thoughts. We think our thoughts are all our own, but of course, when we think about it, we know that the thoughts come from three different places, either ourselves, the Lord, or the enemy. And a lot of these, of course, negative thoughts are coming from the enemy, trying to remind you over and over and over again of all the bad things that people have done to you, so that you can't truly forgive them and give them to God. It reminds you of what happened with your father or your mother or stepfather, stepmother. You know, it could be teachers, could be your spouse, your ex-spouses, your siblings, all these things that people do bad to you. And if we don't truly forgive them, what does it say in the Bible? It says that God can't forgive us. And so that gives the legal right to the enemy to continue to give us these thoughts, reminding us of all these bad things that people have done. And once, in fact, this is an interesting too. When I was in Gillette, Wyoming, I went to go to see Mount Rushmore, and I'd never been to the Badlands before. Anyone here been to the Badlands? They're in South Dakota. I was like, I got to go to the Badlands, see how bad these Badlands are. And so I got out there to the Badlands, and it's pretty windy, and it's pretty dusty, and my car gets completely dirty. And so I come back and get my car washed, which I do like every week because I'm traveling so much, and it gets dirty. And as I'm going through the car wash, the Lord gives me a quick lesson, I guess. And I said, because I told him, I said, I'd like to just wash my car one time and be done with it. I'm tired of having to wash it over and over and over again. It's a pain. It takes like, I don't know, 5 minutes. And so he said, yeah. He goes, well, that's just like a Christian's life. Christians out there in the Badlands. And there are people out there in the world that are saying things and doing things to hurt them, to betray them, to cause them to have all this pain. And he said, unless they forgive them on a continual basis, he goes, they're going to have all that junk from the enemy on them and keep reminding them in their thoughts of all these things that are negative. So they have to forgive everybody in the past, everybody in the present, and those in the future that are going to hurt you. Because, we live in a world, it's a fallen world. There's a lot of people that have these thoughts that are negative, and a lot of them are in the church. A lot of times we see people in the church that are not the way that they should be. And it really, really causes a lot of people to say, I want nothing to do with the church, if that's what the church is, because that pastor said this and did this to me and lied about me and betrayed me. And so they're hypocritical. And that's why a lot of the Pharisees and scribes hated Jesus, because Jesus would speak the truth. And he knew their hearts and their minds were wicked. They were acting like they were godly people, and they weren't. So there's another study that came out and said, and this is in 2005, it says Leahy 2005 study at Cornell University. Scientists found that firstly, 85% of what we worry about never happens. Did you ever think about that? So again, these thoughts from the enemy are going to try and cause us to have a lot of fear. Like, this bad thing's going to happen to you, that bad thing's going to happen to you. And then secondly, with the 15% of the worries that did happen, 79% of the subjects discovered that they could either handle the difficulty better than expected, or that the difficulty taught them a lesson that was worth learning. So the conclusion was that 97% of our worries are baseless. So just think of all these thoughts that are coming in. Again, I didn't even pay attention to my thoughts. I was told when I was growing up that Christians can't have any demons that are affecting them. And I'm like, well, why wouldn't they affect them? Why wouldn't they keep trying to whisper? And I couldn't understand that, because in 2 Corinthians chapter 10, 3-6, Paul basically warns people to take their thoughts captive.
Yes, he does.
And I'm going to read this. And it is right here. For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war according to the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty in God for pulling down strongholds. Strongholds are essentially those thoughts that we believe to be true. Oftentimes, think about this, is oftentimes people will say things to us that aren't true about another person. And if we believe them to be true, what do? We normally stay away from that person. Or we look down upon that person. And we could be believing lies. Now, I'm sure that I believe a lot of lies that I thought were true about people. When someone speaks to you, you tend to believe what they say. But if they're hearing from the enemy, or if they have negative intentions of their heart, they're going to say things that are not true and cause people to believe lies. So it says we're supposed to cast down arguments and every high thing, which is every prideful thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, bringing every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ. So until we start to discern which thoughts are coming from the enemy and then taking that thought captive, if we keep hearing the enemy keep speaking to us, what are we going to do? We're going to feel in fear. We're going to have anger. We're not going to have the fruit of the Spirit evident in our life. We're going to have the fruit of the flesh of the enemy. We're going to take offense very quickly. We're going to think a lot of negative thoughts, and it's going to cause us to actually be the ones not having peace anymore. And if I hear someone speak to me that I know is not godly, why would I do that? Why would I listen to any word that anyone would say that I know is a bad guy or a bad girl, that are aligned. I don't. If I know that, if I can discern it, but if I can't discern it, I'm going to listen to what they say and believe it to be true. So what I've learned in my own life is to take every thought captive. And that is when I'm driving down the road. How many of us have ever had this thought come in? I'm driving down the road, and all of a sudden the thought comes in, and you see a tree up ahead of you. If you veer off to the right and hit that tree, all your pain will be gone, because you'll be dead. How many of us have had those thoughts? Most of us, to some degree. And it's just like, where'd that thought come from? And you try and dismiss it. Well, wait a minute, that's not true. I'm not going to do that, and that would be bad. But there's a percentage of people that will listen to the enemy, again, on a day-to-day basis, and they'll not have peace in their lives. So we have to take all those thoughts captive. So what I started doing is training myself to pay attention to every thought that was coming in. And when I discerned that it was the enemy, I would try to stop it just as soon as possible. Because if I let him speak a whole sentence, I'm going to be in fear. I'm going to be in worry. I'm going to take an offense. I'm going to be angry. It's going to cause me to strive with my wife, with my children. The enemy wants us to strive and fight. But it says in 2 Timothy 2:23-24, a servant of the Lord must not strive, but be gentle in all their ways. In hopes that the person that's not, where they should be was actually going to come to the understanding of what the truth is. So we need to understand, okay, if I say something to someone and they can't receive it, then that's going to create strife. I got to stay out of that. It may take them a while. You may have to plant some things, and so they start to think about it, and the Holy Spirit can keep speaking to them to bring them to the truth. There's a lot of people that follow my ministry, and the first time they hear the message, they may reject it. And the Lord's like, that's okay, you planted the seed. Now let the Holy Spirit keep speaking to them about the truth. And then eventually, maybe months down the road, it may be a year down the road, they'll come to the realization, So just like the Pharisees and scribes hated Jesus, the message that he had was truth, but it was essentially to convict them, to say, listen, you are too prideful, you are too arrogant, you're not the way that you should be. And so I have to speak this message of truth in order to help people get set free from this. And we're seeing, again, thousands and thousands around the world that once they've gone through and said, okay, and this is essentially deliverance, because I'm like, what is deliverance? Deliverance essentially forgives people of what they've done to hurt us. And the enemy's job is to try and hurt us early and often as much as he can as we're growing up, and with our spouse and with our children. The enemy wants to hurt us through maybe our father or mother, and then he wants to hurt us so badly that we keep hearing the thoughts from the enemy, and then we take out all of our anger on our own children. And then we end up saying things to them that hurts them, and then they puts a wedge between us and our children. And it could be that the children I had one man that was in Texas that he had a sleepover at the pastor's house with another 6-year-old boy. He was 6 years old, and he got molested there. And he didn't tell anybody. Well, then he started hearing the enemy's voice telling him things that he shouldn't have, all these things that are bad. And so it started consuming him, all these thoughts. And then that's how the enemy came into him. I had another man who had his sister that sexually touched him when he was 8, she was 15. And he told nobody about it. And him and his wife were on the verge of divorce. He had such a jealousy, he would call home, checking on her to make sure she wasn't fooling around with another guy, like all the time, like every day. And she's like, hello, I'm not doing that. Will you please stop doing this? And he couldn't stop because the enemy kept telling him. He didn't know this until actually he met me. I was getting ready to do a TV show. And he kept saying everything blaming was his wife's fault and so forth. And she was more gentle in nature. He was more the aggressor. And I said, well, sometimes we end up having things done to us, and then we kind of block them out. We don't tell anybody about it. And then they end up having the enemy keep speaking to us, saying you can't trust whoever it was that did it, women or men. And all of a sudden it clicked for him in his mind. He said, I haven't told anybody this in my whole life. Because when I was 8, my sister did something to me sexually, and she was 15. And ever since then, I've heard the voice telling me, you can't trust women. And so that caused him for the rest of his life and 20 years of marriage not to trust his wife. And so after he heard the message, I was just talking to him one-on-one, and I was just getting ready to go on this TV show. He actually went through the prayers to forgive his sister and forgive others that have hurt and humble himself, and he got free. He actually got healed. A lot of times we see a lot of healings that take place, a lot of times instantly, sometimes progressively. So we have a lot of anger and hatred in our heart, and that gives legal right to the enemy to do things to us physically. And so he forgave his sister, and he got healed. Right then he had pain in his left side of his arm and his chest. And then, it was funny, because the Lord spoke to me and said, hey, invite him on the TV program. I'm like, he won't do that. He just got upset 3 seconds ago. He goes, ask him, watch. I'm like, oh, no way. So I asked him, I said, and of course his wife listening to this, his wife's put up with this for 20 years, thinking there's no way he's going to ever share. Well, after he explained it, he got freed. He's like, okay, I want to be on there. I want to tell everybody about what I went through and how I was so horrible to my wife. And I'm like, what? No way. And he did. He came on the TV show and he shared. And of course, his wife was like freaking out, like, who are you? Because he would never share the truth. And he did, because he changed. And we see oftentimes people's personalities change to, instead of being harsh and controlling and prideful and manipulating and envying, jealousy, and all that stuff, to being who they really are in Christ. And they're nice people. Because oftentimes people can see the niceness come out and play occasionally, but then the enemy comes in a lot and controls them and tells them to do these things that aren't good. And so, and I've seen women, that have been hurt by fathers or by sexual violations that will control their husbands in a very harsh way, but they'll act all sweet and nice in front of church, so people look at them like, oh, they're so sweet, you're so lucky to be married to them. And then behind closed doors, it's like, no, they're not that way when we get in the car, when we drive off the parking lot of the church. They're very controlling and mean. Well, it's because oftentimes they grew up and they had relationships with their fathers or their mothers that were not the way it should be. And so they're hearing those voices of the enemy. And I've had so many people that have gotten, through, again, we're going to end with these prayers that are really powerful when you humble yourself and when you say, okay, I'm going to forgive everybody that hurt me, that are powerful. And then you see a lot of people that they're smiling. They smile a lot more, they're happier. There's a term that says blondes have more fun. And I'm like, no, delivered blondes have more fun.
Right.
Delivered anybody has more fun. I have a lot of fun. I enjoy my life now. And I used to have these thoughts that would come in and affect me. I didn't know. I'm like, nobody ever taught me this in church. And so now that I've learned all this, it's like, man, I have so much fun. I'm like a child. It's like the childlike innocence that was stolen from all of us gets restored to us. And then we can have fun. We don't have to control and dominate and make every decision our own, because that's not the way God is. God doesn't force us to do all these things. We have a free will to choose. And so it's been amazing, the testimonies that I've seen. I mean, it's like there was one guy, and you can watch this on YouTube. This guy, he was at a stoplight, and he was in Billings, Montana, about a couple months ago. Came to one of these meetings, and he was at a stoplight 7 years prior, and this woman that was drunk hit him from behind, going 65 miles an hour, and it did $15,000 worth of damage to his truck. He had his hips shift backwards like 25 degrees and like 1.5 inches. I mean, it was just majorly pain that he was in. For 7 straight years, he was taking like morphine and codeine, all these major painkillers. So he went through these prayers, and then that night, he didn't take any medication. He was taking them for 7 straight years, extreme pain. And he came back in and he said, I went to bed last night, I didn't take any medication, and I have no pain. And then he bent over as he was standing and touched his nose to his knees. He goes, I couldn't do that before. I'm like, I can't do that now. I'm like, how can you do that? That's crazy. And it was amazing, a lot of these healings that are taking place. And if you can imagine, if you've got a lot of anger, hatred, if somebody hurt you deeply, especially if you're married to somebody, I mean, the enemy tries to hurt you as much as he can with relationships. And who's the biggest one that you would have pain from? Oftentimes, it's going to be your mom, your dad, stepmom, stepdad, relatives, could be aunts, uncles, grandparents, your spouse. Obviously, you're around a person all the time, the enemy's going to try and get you to say something to hurt them. And then you take an offense, and then you got bitterness, and then the enemy's got legal right now to hurt. So, and the enemy comes in various ways. He can come in through relatives that were involved in secret societies or clubs where they say things, make oaths that they shouldn't be, and they can come down to the 3rd and 4th generations and affect us. I've seen it in my own life. So anyway, the Lord showed me that there are these characteristics that are associated with these stronger, I've got to call them the strong man from the enemy, that causes us to do things. And remember in the Bible, there's a 1 Kings, 2 Kings. They have a story about Jezebel and Ahab. You know, Jezebel married King Ahab. Ahab came from a kingly background, a godly background. He should not have married Jezebel because she did not come from a godly background. So what did Ahab do? He allowed her to basically take the show and kill the prophets of the Lord, you know, and it was not good. They were trying to kill Elijah, and an example of what Ahab did that he shouldn't have done is he wanted Naboth's vineyard, if you remember that. It was somewhat near the castle or whatever, palace that they had. And so he went down and talked to Naboth and said, hey, I'm going to buy this, or I'll give you something of like value. And he said, no, I'm going to give this to my kids. You can have that. It's mine. And he's like, oh, okay. So then he goes back to his bedroom and starts to cry about it, whine about it. He doesn't eat. And then Jezebel's wife's like, why are you so sad? He's like, well, because I can't have Naboth's vineyard. She's like, well, I'll take care of it for you, honey. Oh, really? Oh, you're the best. You know, mwah. And so what did she do? She ends up writing a letter and puts his stamp on it and says, let's set up this Naboth. Let's bring him into a banquet. Let's act like we're going to give him, you know, kudos. And instead, let's have these two scoundrels lie about him, accuse him of blaspheming God and the king, and then take him outside and stone him and kill him. And that's exactly what happened to him. And then when the news came back to Jezebel that, okay, it's yours now, and then he told Ahab. Ahab was like happy, yay! So Ahab got a benefit, because oftentimes people that are struggling more with hearing the voice of the enemy, like Jezebel did, will take action. They will threaten, they will be more dominant than what people that struggle with the Ahab spirit. Ahab spirits will get benefit from that oftentimes because they won't do the dirty work that needs to be done, whereas people that, you know, struggle more with this Jezebel spirit they will listen to that and they will take advantage of that. So that's exactly what happened. Then the word came to Elijah from God telling him what went down. So then God confronted Ahab through Elijah because he actually went down to take possession of Naboth's vineyard. And he's like, God's not happy with you. God's going to take you out for what you did. And then Ahab, what did he do? He actually repented before God, apologized, and said, yeah, I did what was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. And he bought himself some more time. But then his kids ended up getting killed because of what he had done. He should have told Jezebel, no, we're not going to kill anybody for that property. But he didn't. So oftentimes we tolerate behaviors that shouldn't, and we end up becoming like partners in crime. And that's what the Lord's doing. He's coming back for a pure and spotless bride. And there's a lot of people that are in the church that are not pure and spotless, because the Lord looks upon the heart and the mind. That's what dictates, you know, whether or not we make it to heaven. Not if we look good in front of the church. It's who are we behind closed doors. So how do you get free from this? We have to humble ourselves. Oftentimes we have pride. I have pride. I would never admit that I had any pride. Normally we don't see that. You know, what does pride look like? Pride looks like this. Oftentimes when someone's teaching us, like right now, well, the enemy will tell us, well, we already know everything that they're talking about, so we don't want to listen. We think we know everything. Number two, we see ourselves as too good to perform certain tasks. You know, I'm not going to lower myself to clean the bathroom. That's somebody else's job. Number three, we're too proud to ask for help. Remember before we had talking GPS? I say this probably more with men than anything, but I know where I'm at. I know where I'm going. It takes like 3 hours to find. Oh my gosh, it's like 10 minutes away because they're too proud to ask for help. And so, number four, pride causes us to feel the need to consistently teach people things. 5, we talk about ourselves a lot. So our accomplishments, our education, our title, our position, financial status, the glory days. Remember that song? Glory days. Bruce Springsteen, the boss. The boss. Boss Hog. Oh my gosh. Maybe there's a correlation there.
Uh-oh.
Was Boss Hog prideful, do you think?
Oh, I think so. Pretty sure.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Yes. Number 6, you think you're better than others who are different or less fortunate. That's pride. 7, when you disregard the advice of others. 8, when you're consistently critical. People who are critical are that way because they secretly see themselves as exempt from the very same things they criticize others for. Yeah. So pride oftentimes blinds us from our own faults, and we see it in everybody else. I remember I used to be like that. I'm like, oh yeah, look at this. And so that's why that verse in the Bible about don't look in the speck in someone else's eye, you got a log in your own.
Yeah.
Well, you have to humble yourself though to admit that, because the enemy doesn't want us to see that. 9, consistent need for attention and affirmation, especially in public. 10, pride causes us to be unable to receive any type of constructive criticism because it'll tell us that we have nothing wrong with us, it's everybody else. 11, we're overly obsessed with our physical appearances. 12, we're unwilling to submit to authority. 13, we ignore people's attempts to communicate with us, especially if they can't help us. If they are just trying to get help from us, oftentimes we blow them off because they're not going to help us look better, position us better. 14, we justify our sin instead of admitting it. 15, we like to name drop with people who have prominent positions in the community. 16, you're on a different timetable than others, so you can show up late for a call or a meeting because your time is more valuable than everybody else's. 17, pride causes us to get angry easily, especially if someone questions your intentions or your motives or your statements. You'll get angry very quickly. 18, your inner circle of people consists of yes men and women who agree with everything you say and do, because if they don't, you kick them off your island. Like, if you don't agree with everything I do, then I'm not going to be friends with you. And oftentimes we see this too, as a person gets older, they have a lot of pride, they oftentimes have less and less friends.
Yep.
Because the people don't want to put up with that anymore. 19, do you think of yourself as more spiritual than others in your church? So you may talk a lot about, I fasted 45 days last month. I'm like, well, wait a minute, there's only 30 days in a month, So it causes you to be a lot more religious and spiritual and to try to impress people. 20, do you have a touchy, sensitive spirit, so you're easily offended? Oftentimes you'll take an offense at the drop of a hat, but you'll offend people a lot and expect them to take it and take it and take it. 21, do you avoid participating in certain events for fear of being embarrassed or looking foolish because you know you won't win? Anyone here ever heard of the card game euchre? Anyone? They play that a lot in Indiana. I never played it growing up, and then I was later taught it. But that's kind of an example. Like if you're not really good at certain things, you won't want to participate because you got to win at everything. That's what pride will cause you to do. I was very competitive. I wanted to win at everything. And if I wasn't going to be good at it, I would not do it. 22, you avoid being around certain people because you feel inferior compared to them. 23, when's the last time you said these words to a family member, friend, or coworker? I am sorry for what I did to hurt you. I was Remember Fonzie back in the days? He would not say he was wrong until like the end of the episode. I was I love that episode. So it wasn't until the very end that he was hit on. And I'll say this too, the Lord showed me this just a couple months ago. He said, Nelson, he goes, pride can keep my people who I love from healings. He gave me the example of Naaman. He said Naaman had leprosy, and he wanted to get healed from that. So he came to Elisha the prophet and said, hey, pray for me. I want to get healed from this. And Elisha's like, nah, this is how it's going to work. You're going to go dip over there in the filthy, dirty Jordan River. I've actually gone to the Jordan River and been baptized there. It is dirty. They have rats and stuff in there. So he's like, go over to the Jordan River and dip 7 times. And he's like, no. He took an offense. I'm like, I'm not doing that, because if I go to any river, I'll go to the clean rivers over here. He's like, well, then you won't be healed. I said, okay, well then I guess I'll go to the dirty Jordan River and dip 7 times. And he did. Then he got his healing. So oftentimes pride can keep us, because the Lord wants us ultimately to come to heaven. And if we're very prideful and arrogant, God, he hates pride. I'll give you some verses where he really hates pride. So 24, do you react to rules? Do you have a hard time being told what to do? 25, are you really concerned with your reputation? And actually that can cost us and have us go into debt because of the pride level at that point, because we want to have the best truck or the best car, the best clothes, the best house. All these things can drive us into debt. So that is an example of pride. And pride, it says in James 4:10, humble yourselves in the sight of the Lord, and he will lift you up. Proverbs 29:23, a man's pride will bring him low, but the humble in spirit will retain honor. James 4:6, therefore he says, God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. So I'm going to read some characteristics, and this kind of puts it all into perspective, because most of us have some of these in our lives, and the Lord wants to purify us so that we, don't have the effects of these, because then we can really enjoy fun in our lives. We don't strive, we don't fight, we don't argue, and we can say we're sorry when we make a mistake, and become more Christ-like and less like the world, less like the enemy. So that woman that had Jezebel, these are the characteristics that she has, and the Lord showed me, because these are the characteristics that a lot of people still have in the world, even though that person's gone. Because it talks about in Revelation, which is that which is to come. Revelations 2:18-23 talks about Jezebel, how she was in the church, how she was very prideful, and the Lord's going to try and get her to repent of her deeds, and she would not repent. So it does say that I'll put her on a sickbed and kill her children. So there's some negative ramifications if we keep these characteristics as a part of our life. So Jezebel causes us to have a lot of anxiety and fear. And that oftentimes goes back to when we started to have rejection from our dad or mom or people. Or we could have been having a lot more than that. We could have a lot of words spoken to us that cursed us. And of course it says life or death is in the power of our words in Proverbs 18-21. So we need to be careful what we speak out. Well, if we don't think about our thoughts, a lot of times people say, I just speak my mind. It's like, well, really? Have you looked at your mind lately? Your mind's not where it needs to be. Don't be speaking your mind. They can't help themselves. They just speak it out there. And it hurts. Words will affect us. I always say, sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never harm you. Yeah, they will. That's how the enemy gets in. Joyce Meyer wrote the book, Battlefield of the Mind. A lot of people have read that. Well, that's so true. There's a battlefield going on. So anxiety and fear will come in. Jezebel will cause us to control other people, because the voices are telling us that you can't trust anybody else. You couldn't trust your dad or your mom or your spouse, whomever. So therefore, you better make all the decisions, because your decisions are right and everyone else is wrong. And so it's like they got to make sure they make all the decisions. And that's not fun being the recipient of it, because they're like, I can't make any decisions except maybe when I go to the bathroom. And even then, I'm going to have to get their approval. It's like, it'll also cause us to be manipulative. And manipulation can be very subtle. It could be something like, you know what, I want to go have fun this weekend, and I need you to watch my child for me. And if you don't watch my child, I'm going to have my neighbor watch them. Of course, they're non-Christian, so they could be hurt. And that will be all your fault, and that would be bad. And then all of a sudden you start thinking about that, oh my gosh, that's true. And the enemy keeps reminding you, you better watch their kid, you better watch your children. So that's a subtle version of manipulation, And that's how you get your way. That's how the enemy works. Also, other characteristics is you become more demanding. You'll raise your voice if you need to. You'll have a tone, because the enemy tells you, if you get really angry enough, people will give you what you want. And it does work, but it doesn't build a great relationship. It ruins the relationships. Then people do it out of fear. And God's not that way. He doesn't beat us over the head and says, hey, you need to be saved. No, he's like, I'm here. I love you unconditionally. No matter what you've done, doesn't matter. I love you. I want you to come to me. But he wants us to forgive those that have hurt us. And that's part of getting free from all this. So, also causes us to be selfish. We always oftentimes think about our own needs and not much about other people. Can cause us to be sexually impure, sexually selfish, cause us to lie and to make things up that never happened. And that's really painful when you're the recipient of that and people believe lies. Causes us to have a desire for power and leadership, wants to shut down the true Holy Spirit. It's very dominating, intimidating. That's what Jezebel did. She threatened, remember Elijah when he had the fire come down from heaven and he killed all the Baal prophets. You think he'd be like, hey, I'm the man. Did you see the fire the other day? Yep, that's because I called it down. But then the next day, Jezebel threatened him, saying, well, it's going to be tomorrow the same time that what happened to the fate of my Baal prophets is going to happen to you. So what did he do? He got scared and he took off running, went into a cave, said, God, kill me, please take me. I'm the only last prophet standing. And so oftentimes they'll threaten and cause people to behave and do things out of that fear of what they are threatening. So Jezebel causes us to be rebellious, suspicious of others' intentions, can cause us to be paranoid, cause us to be very critical and judgmental, rarely ever admit that we're wrong or apologize, like Fonzie. They act assured of themselves, like they know everything, but really inside they're insecure. They cannot stand to be told no. They love to provoke people to get them angry. Like oftentimes they'll say things to a person to try to get a rise out of them. And if that person just shuts their mouth, they don't like that. So they'll keep on over and over, and it could be an hour into it. And finally you're like, enough, I can't take this anymore. And they're like, oh, look how bad that you are. Like, well, that really wasn't me. It was your fault that you did that. But they won't take responsibility for like anything. So they enjoy starting arguments. They have constant chatter from the enemy in their mind. They can't turn it off, especially at nighttime. They don't really normally sleep well at night. And they'll tell you something to do. Like if they're a boss of other people, they'll tell you what to do. And if you don't do it exactly as they would, they'll get mad at you, even though you may even have a better way of doing it. So they're very perfectionistic. They will betray you. They're not loyal. And they oftentimes have double standards. So they'll expect you to do something that they would not do. One of the examples from one of my friends, lady friends, is that she had an ex-husband that demanded her to show every single text that she made on her phone. And he wanted her to take out all these relationships she had with men and only have women. Yet he had like a lock on his phone, would never show his phone to his wife, and would never, he could have friends with women if he wanted to and message them and stuff, and she couldn't see what he was doing. So it's a very double standard. And I've seen this with more women that struggle with Jezebel than men. Men can struggle with it as well. It's equal opportunity offender. But I've seen a lot of women, because I have some friends that had mothers like this, is that their mothers would lie about her children to each other. So you know what your sister said about you? And she would make it up, and it wasn't true, in order to get them to not like each other and not talk to each other. They wanted the full attention of their children. And they're like, what mother would do that? I'm like, well, someone that's hearing this, the enemy's spirits. And they're like, oh my gosh, well then that makes sense. Because they always want me to like love on them and feel sorry for them, and then they're mean to me oftentimes, but then they don't want me to do anything with my siblings. And then they say all these lies and stuff, and we finally found out about it when we talked. So, and those that have the strongest effect from this would be considered by the psychologist as a narcissist. And they said that there's no hope for narcissism. Well, there's no medication for that. But if people repent for the pride and they forgive people, they get free from this. And they're different people. They have fun. They don't have the enemy's voices up there anymore. And they're at peace. And they're smiling more. And they can laugh. It's funny, you think about Jesus, who do you want to hang out with? The little children. Because they weren't affected by all this enemy stuff for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Those that have been around the earth for longer were normally more affected by this, because they hadn't gone through, what we're taking people through today. So, I notice with children, I have a childlike innocence. There's a boy over there. And we hung out yesterday as I drove him from here to go to eat. And we had fun listening to some radio songs, some Christian songs, and singing to it. And so oftentimes, I love like coaching my kids in baseball and sports and stuff, because I wouldn't get mad and angry and yell at them, because oftentimes you see a lot of coaches that are that way, and they're like, oh, we gotta win at all costs, I'm like, really? I'm like, we're supposed to enjoy what we're doing. Otherwise, why even do it, Same thing with working, it's like I enjoy to have fun on the job, and then I notice a lot of times people be really mean, competitive, and be evil, and I'm like, what is that? Why are you behaving this way? Talk to me really evilly. And there's overt and covert effects of this, depending on how much we were hurt when we were growing up. So the overt ones are those that would maybe throw knives and glasses and scarf or arms, their fingernails, which is what I got to enjoy for 6 years. That wasn't fun. And then there's a subtle version of that, where they'll be more nice and calmer, but they'll still get their way. If you don't do this, this, and this, and this, then I'm not going to do this, 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 and this for you. And then this Leviathan, which I never heard of, but of course it's in Job 41. The whole thing talks about Leviathan. And there's like 6 other verses in the Bible, in Psalms and some other chapters. So Leviathan, Job 41, the last 2 verses, it describes basically like a water monster, like an alligator that has teeth, a lot of teeth, and it has scales. It says the rows of scales are its pride. And you read Job 41, 33 to 34, it says, on earth there is nothing like him, which is made without fear. He beholds every high thing, which is every prideful thing. It means he's in charge of every prideful thing. He is king over all the children of pride. So I'm like, So what I noticed with people that I would go through this with is they had pride, lots of pride. Pride would always come in with this, thinking they're better than others and not humble or whatever. But I also noticed it would twist communication in the person's mind. Like if you're having a conversation with them, they would hear something that you said that you never said. And they would swear that you said it. And then you start feeling like you're the crazy one. You're like, wait a minute, do I need to record everything that we talk about? Because this is not what I said. And they're like, well, yes, you did, yes, you did. And they swear it. And then they may refer to it as the week before. Or if they said something that turned out to be bad, they would deny it. They said, oh, I never said that. I'm like, yes, you did. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. Like, oh, no. Why are you forgetting this? Do I need to record this? So, and oftentimes, again, if it's anything negative, if it's something that was positive, then they'll take, oh yeah, I said that, or I did that. And you're like, oh my gosh. And then I had a church where we brought people in and we would pray for them. The pastor that I had wanted to have like a healing room, and so we opened it up on Saturdays. And that was kind of my testing ground before I started doing this all over the world with people on Facebook Messenger video chat. And what we noticed is when people went through forgiving people and repenting for what they've done, is they would oftentimes feel their spines get healed. They would feel lighter, like this Leviathan thing was unwrapping and leaving them. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I feel like 10 pounds lighter. I can see clearer now. And they would see a lot of healings. And I noticed a lot of times people had back pain and neck pain that they'd go to the chiropractor for, or they'd take pain medications for. And it's because that spirit of pride had a legal right to torment them until they asked, for forgiveness and repented for that. When they humbled themselves, then it had no more legal right and it had to go. We saw a lot of people getting healed. Oftentimes, Leviathan caused us to have headaches, and I used to have a lot of headaches. Insomnia, you couldn't sleep well at night. If you tried to read the Bible or Christian books, you would fall asleep. People a lot of times had scoliosis, which is what I had. Couldn't play basketball my 7th grade basketball year because I had scoliosis. So I go to the chiropractor all the time. And it would never stay. I would always have to go back to the chiropractor up until 10 years ago. And then I got set free from this, and now I don't have headaches. I haven't had a headache in like 10 years. That's crazy. Especially I have to travel a lot and drive. I've driven twice, 17 hours in one day. That's a long drive. From San Antonio, funny, both of them were from San Antonio to Campbellsville, Kentucky, where you guys are from. Because I used to stay with Stephanie's brother, Joey. So the second time I did the 17-hour drive, I was like, you know what, I'm so fresh, I bet I could drive another hour. But I didn't push it, so. But as soon as you stop, within about 10 minutes, you're like, I'm going to sleep, I'm tired. But I saw a lot of people that had fibromyalgia, and then I started having chiropractors and doctors that would refer their patients to me that were Christians. They're like, we're seeing exactly what you're talking about. Can you take them through these prayers? And I'm like, yeah. And I started seeing miracles happen. Christian psychologists were referring people. And ultimately it started blowing my mind, because I'm a kid from a cornfield, and I was dealing with people in Hollywood, people that were supermodels, people that were actors and actresses, people that were former professional football players, and now the NBA players. There's some NBA players that are going through these. And I'm like, what? Kid from a cornfield? I don't know nothing. I'm like, well, you know this though. This is affecting the majority of the millions of people out there in the world. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy, God. He said, they're people. They need help.
Right.
And I remember one guy, he was worth $500 million. And his father was focused on making money, obviously, and not being able to spend time playing with his kids. So when I was explaining this to him, he was just bawling like a little boy. He's like, I just want. His dad died, left him all this money, and and he was like a little boy. He was hurt so badly. He was like I think he was in his late 30s, and yet he could hear these voices in his head all the time. He went to the best psychologists and priests that money could buy, and it wasn't working. And then actually he went through this, and he got freed. He said, I don't hear those voices. Now I can discern it when the enemy tries to speak to me, and I can shut it down. I can have peace now, finally, after all that time. So it's amazing. And then King Ahab, characteristics of people that would, because oftentimes we have all three of these voices that are speaking to us. Ahab, but will default to one or the other. Will be either more of an Ahab or more of the Jezebel. And so Ahabs don't like confrontations. They don't like striving. They don't like arguing. They'll normally just give in to try to keep the peace. They have a hard time being a strong spiritual leader, strong desire to make everybody happy. They're afraid of being rejected. They'll take responsibility for everything that goes wrong. That's why the Jezebel spirit people love that, because they can do all these things and then blame their spouse for it. And they're like, okay, yep, that was me. but they have a hard time making decisions. They're very nice, but they need to stand up. They need to not tolerate that. And it's really hard. When you love a person, you want to get along with people. So the enemy will trick you to say, well, just let them do whatever they want. But then what happens is we compromise. And so the majority of relationships we see out there are these types of individuals. And you see it in probably 90% of relationships. And once you hear about this, it's like your eyes are open. You're like, oh my gosh, so that's what the enemy's doing to us. Okay, now we're on to the enemy. Now, to get freed, all we have to do is to forgive people. Well, that could be hard for some people. Because if someone's hurt you really deeply through father wounds or mother wounds or sexual violations, then the enemy's going to tell you forever, don't forgive them. They were horrible. They don't deserve all those bad things they did. Well, no, they don't deserve it, but just think about what Jesus went through. He was perfect. He didn't do anything wrong. And he said, Father, forgive them. They do know not what they do. So how do you forgive them? So there was a movie called The Shack. It came out a couple years ago. Anybody watch The Shack?
Yes, I loved it. Yeah.
I didn't watch it at first because I was busy. And the Lord said, I want you to watch that. And I'm like, okay. So I watched it. And after I watched it 2 more times, which I hardly ever watched movies more than once. But there's a scene in there, and I'll tell you about the basis of it. The basis of it was a boy growing up was abused by his father in a shack. He was beaten. And so therefore, as he grew up, he was angry at God. He's like, God didn't protect me. Where was God at when all this horribleness went on? And of course, he was angry at his father as well. And so what happened is they had an angel take him into this special place, and it was like a cave they took him into. Said, okay, you're so angry at God, you decide who goes to heaven and hell. And he didn't want to do that. Well, then they showed him these visions of people, like movie pictures. And the first person was like a person that was killing a person with a gun. And he's like, that person goes to hell. And then they showed another one doing drugs. Okay, that person goes to hell. And all these bad guys. And then they showed a little boy that was in a shack, 8 years of age. He's like, well, the little boy's innocent. That little boy's not going to go to hell. The little boy's going to heaven. And then they panned back from that, and they showed that boy's father beating him up. He said, that little boy was your father. And all of a sudden it hit him. It's like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that my grandpa beat up my dad. Well, then that explains why he beat me up. And then after that, he could forgive him. And that's where we have to be, is we have to understand, why did these people do these bad things to us? It's because they had bad things done to them. Once we see it from God's perspective, we can forgive anybody from anything. And we have to, truly. And how do you know when you've truly forgiven someone? Well, if that person that hurt you, or those many people that hurt you, walked in the door right now, how would you feel? Would you want to beat them up? Would you have a lot of anger that would rise up in you? If so, then you probably have not forgiven them. Even though you might have said, well, I did. I said the words. I forgive them because I know I'm supposed to. But in your heart is what makes that dictation of whether or not you truly do, because the Lord knows your heart, and so does the enemy. You have a lot of anger and bitterness for all these bad things, but if you can see them through Christ's eyes, you can forgive them. I went through some extreme abuse with my second wife, where she threw knives and glasses at me and scarred my arm here with her fingernails and lied about me to people. It was horrible. But she told me midway through the 6 years of suffering that the enemy was telling her bad things about me. I'm like, well, there's your key. If you know it's the enemy, why are you listening? Because she would tell me that, you're the best husband I ever had. I was her 4th husband. So she was in a lot of pain. First one divorced her in 5 years, second one in 2 years, third one in 14 months. And the Lord told me to marry her and said I would love her like Christ loved the church. And then on my wedding night, I saw the mean side of her come out. And he said, yes, you're going to go through a lot of abuse and you can't tell anybody about it. But he said, in the end, I will give you a worldwide ministry and you will help people, millions of people around the world. Because this is truly going to help them become pure and spotless, to be real Christians, and not just by faking it and going into the churches and acting like it, but truly getting set free and delivered. Because he said, you're going to have a business-like approach that people will receive it. You're not going to be weird. I'm like, I ain't doing this, God, if this is weird. And it's not. I mean, we have fun. Oftentimes, I have people laughing. But at the end, we get serious and say, okay, we're going to forgive people. We're going to forgive them. Doesn't mean that they're exonerated. We end up freeing ourselves is what happens when we forgive. Yep. They still have to answer to God for what they did. They have to work it out with the Lord. But then we also ask for, repent for what we've done to hurt people. Because again, we've all hurt people. We've all sinned, fallen short. So we have to ask the Lord, forgive us. And we have to say, repent for our pride. I don't want pride in my life. I want a humble heart. Jesus was very meek, obviously. Meekness means not weakness,
Right.
but strength under control. Like I know, he knew who he was in Christ because he was Christ. But those of us that have Christ in us, we need to know, okay, we can walk in the same authority as Jesus Christ, but not really until we actually forgive people that hurt us and we repent for our own pride. Then we have the greater things that the Lord wants to bless us with. Because now he can trust us, It's amazing, this journey that I've taken on is just like, I was the last person in the world that I thought would ever do this. But I went through some things. I saw how children were hurt. I had a son that was hurt by a boy in our neighborhood. It messed him up for 10 years. And in fact, I can show you a picture, the before and after. And here's the before picture. You can see in the eyes are the windows to a person's soul. And you can see his eyes are very dark, very sad. He had gauges in his ears. He had, piercings, and he was not in a good place. So then I prayed over him, commanded the enemy to go in Jesus' name. And then this is what it looked like afterwards. And you can see life comes back to him. And I've seen that in adults. I mean, everywhere. There's amazing. In fact, I'll show you this. There's this woman. She is now, her and her sister are in charge of my Restorative Freedom ministry team. We have 160 people now around the world in like 8 countries, and we're adding more every week. And they went to church. They were hurt though growing up. But they went to church, they went on ministry trips, mission trips, and stuff. And this is the before picture of Dawn. And again, she's kind of pursing her lips, trying to appear. But you can see the eyes and the eyebrows. Oftentimes that you can't fake. So the eyes and the eyebrows oftentimes show you. Now watch the after picture and think about the Proverbs 31 woman. You can see she's got peace now, and her purity is restored, and she's a completely different person. She used to be very controlling of her husband, and he said he couldn't get an word in edgewise. I would beat him into the ground. And now she doesn't do that, and her whole family got set free. They're like enjoying life now. And then this is her sister, who took her 7-8 months before she went through it after her sister did. And you can see that's the before. And this is the after with her and her husband, how much joy and peace that they had. Amazing. Yes. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to go through some prayers where you take authority over yourself in Jesus' name. Where we forgive people. So I'm going to pray that the Lord show you, these people that hurt you, again, your father, your mother, stepfather, stepmother, spouse, ex-spouses, children even, siblings, pastors, and forgiving them. When you forgive them now, watch what happens. You start to get freed, and you start to feel lighter, and you're like, oh my gosh, this feels really good. And then we repent for what we've done, and then I'll take authority, and at the end, and then some of you will start seeing some, you'll start getting healed from things you couldn't get healed from. Oftentimes backs and necks and stuff get healed. It's amazing, and it's fun. And you feel more like a child at the end. You're like, oh my gosh, I feel really good. I can't explain it, but I really feel good. It's like, yeah, that's how it works. So what I'm going to do is if everybody can stand that can stand, if you can't, then you can sit. And I'm going to stand because my rear is sore. Okay, there we go. And then people on Facebook can also go through this, which they do. You're right, I have to put my face really close to this so I can pick it up.
Hey, wait. Pull it up. Can you pull it up where it's close to his mouth? You took the short girl's mic. Oh.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, okay. All right. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to pray, or a quick prayer before we do this, so that we're all at peace and stuff. And then I'm going to pray that the Lord shows you all those that have hurt you in your life so you can truly forgive them. So So thank you, Heavenly Father, right now. Just bind and any enemy interference in the name of Jesus. We charge the angels to come into position and give us peace, and let the Holy Spirit flow and direct in Jesus' name. Thank you, Lord. I'm going to pray right now. Holy Spirit, just show everyone, all those who have hurt them in their past, and allow them to see them through your eyes, that those people were hurt. And that's the only reason why they did those things, to hurt them, to betray them. Physical abuse, sexual abuse, all these things, so that they can be freed. So I'm going to give you about a minute and let the Lord show you everyone in your life. Thank you, Lord. Praise you, Lord. Thank you. I want you to just repeat after me. Say, Heavenly Father, I choose to forgive. And then name the first names of all those who have hurt you. You can whisper if you want to. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Jesus. And say, Lord, forgive me for all who I have hurt. And take away my pride. And give me a humble and contrite spirit. Say, I love you, Jesus. Thank you for dying on the cross for me. In Jesus' name, amen. And I'm going to pray right now. Just command all enemy junk be gone in Jesus' name. I declare, Heavenly Father, replace it with your peace, love, joy. Restore all childlike innocence to them right now in Jesus' name. And we just pray, Heavenly Father, for all the effects that have hurt them in their bodies. We command that to go in Jesus' name. And we release health and wholeness and healing in their backs, in their spines, in their necks, in their legs, in their arms, in their brains, in Jesus' name. Release peace, love, joy. We declare when they sleep tonight, they will sleep soundly. And they'll have good dreams. And that you'll give them the interpretation of those dreams. When they read the Word, read Christian books, and will not fall asleep, they will stay awake and be able to retain everything that they read. Thank you, Heavenly Father, God. Allow us all now to walk out of here becoming more Christ-like than we've ever been before. Let us hear your voice clearly and shut down all enemy voices trying to cause us to strive and to fight and to argue. I declare, Heavenly Father, that we will be a servant of the Lord and we will not strive. Thank you, Father, that if we need to and you tell us to, we will ask for forgiveness to those that we have hurt and make it right. Thank you, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen. Was that painless? People are smiling. People are feeling lighter. Oftentimes people can see clearer too. It's like these scales remove from their eyes. They can actually see colors better. They can see grass blades and stuff. You know, and oftentimes you get healed. You know, and I've seen some people. There's one lady. They came from Michigan. When keep playing that beat. They came from Michigan to Wichita a couple weeks ago. 13-hour drive. She came in on crutches. And it wasn't until she returned back to Michigan that she had her healing that happened. So what I've seen is a lot of times it's like a progression that happens. Because what the Lord might do is, well, He does, He continues to speak to us, saying this person, you may need to forgive a little more, or you may need to ask the Lord, humble me more. And then when that happens, then the healings come in, just like Naaman, when he had humbled himself to get healed, you know, in the dirty, faulty Jordan River. So, but that's what the Lord's been having me do for the last 2.5 years, and we've seen people all over the world that have gotten freed. So you can sit down, and I wrote 9 books the Lord had me write, and I don't like writing books unless the Lord tells me what to do. So, and I have books basically that help people go through what we just did here. Those that have gotten more pride and struggling with that. I have a book written specifically to help them get delivered, and also those that are struggling more with the Ahab spirit. I also have a book called Keep Your Peace On that helps us to discern when that enemy tries to speak to us, so that we can actually take our thoughts captive and stay in peace all the time. In fact, a lot of you, I'm seeing your faces look really happy compared to once before we went with this. So oftentimes people will see like their personalities change to where they'll be so much more loving and gentle and Christ-like. It just amazes people because they actually see you're like, hey, you've changed. In fact, I had a couple of us in Las Vegas that the husband had been hurt deeply, and they went through a divorce, and then the husband went through a video I did on YouTube, and it completely set him free, and now they're getting remarried. How cool is that? That is amazing. So that's what the heart of the ministry is. My heart is to keep people married, but it takes two. If you have one person that resists this, they're going to keep hearing the voice of the enemy, and it's going to cause them to have fighting and striving and arguing and not getting, be the way they should be. So we have to do our own part. So anyway, I've got the books back there. They're normally $13 on Amazon. They're $10 today, and you can get 7 for $60. I do have a guide that's $5 that helps people learn how to do this to help others get set free. The Lord's raising up an army of people around the world that have been hurt by these deeply and that have never done ministry before. And then you watch a couple of videos on YouTube, and there's 3 books to get certified under Restorative Freedom, like $25 basically. And you can then help others get set free. And I've added people to my website where people can actually find you on the website when they actually want to do a personal session with somebody. So people that have never done ministry before are now doing ministry. They're like, oh my gosh, this is so life-changing. I know so many people that have this. So many families are being restored and actually enjoying getting together on the holidays. What a novel idea, Because the enemy wants to ruin holidays. People that have been hurt deeply, they'll say things to hurt people. And birthdays and anniversaries. So, and I can take credit cards. I got to swipe the thingy. If you make a check out, it's Restored to Freedom. You can make the check too. And I'm a 501c3 too, so you can make a donation if you want to. So I'll turn things over to Lisa.
Nice hand for Jesus, right? There's no deliverance without him. Amen. Let's just sing that chorus one more time before we end the day. That how great is our God? How great is our God? Sing with me. Sing with me. How great is our God? And all will see how great is our God. Let's sing it one more time. Here we go. How great is our God? Sing with me. How great is our God? And all will see how great is our God, we thank you for this time together. We thank you for your great deliverance through Jesus Christ. We thank you for Nelson, Lord. We just pray a special protection over him in his life, in his travels. God, I just thank you for him for being here this morning. And I thank you, God, that you're going to send more people this evening for deliverance. That, God, you have a planned day, a day of freedom for everyone that you love. And that those who will choose to come will come and humble themselves before the mighty hand of God and say, forgive me, God. And I just thank you, God, for that. I thank you that we have surrendering hearts. And I thank you, God, that people will go out today and bring people this evening at the 6 o'clock meeting. And it's going to be even more glorious. And we just praise you and give you all the glory for it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen.